Alright, so warm up for today. It's not in your book or anything, I just want you to talk about it. So, again, we're doing probability this whole week. We're talking about statistics. What are the odds of something happening? So, for the warm up, we have a sandwich shop, and they have 3 different types of bread, 2 different types of cheeses, and then 3 types of meat. So, I want you to come up with how many different types of sandwiches you can make. Each sandwich has to have one of the breads, one of the cheeses, and one of the meats. So take a couple minutes. I know you were thinking about it, but talk to the people next to you, see if you came up with the same thing. If you're not sure about how many types, you can start listing out all the combinations, right? So maybe you get white, cheddar, and ham, right? You can get wheat, cheddar, and ham. So try to figure out how many there are total, all the different combinations. Take a couple minutes, compare your answers or what you're thinking with the people next to you.
I got 20.
There's so many types of cheese. You can start listing them out, right? Like white cheddar, ham, white cheddar, turkey, white cheddar, beef, right? So do you think it's gonna be like Alright, anybody want to share? What do you think? Guesses? Guesses? I heard it several times. 22. Close. Really close. 18. 18. How did you get 18?
So I just multiplied the number of bread by cheese, and then that gave me 6, so I did 6 times 3, and it gives me 18.
Do you multiply them all out? That's one way. Great. 3 times 2 times 3. Today we're going to be working on sample space, and we'll talk about what that is in just a second. And when we do sample space, we list out every single possible combination. So we're going to be doing that later today. You write out every single combination, right? So we have white, cheddar, ham. Then you would say white, cheddar, turkey, white, cheddar, roast beef, right? So you would list out all of the options. So we're going to be looking at problems today like this, coming up with how many combinations, and we're actually going to list out all of those items. So that was one way to figure it out, is multiplying the numbers. But today we're going to be working on actually listing out all the combinations. So let me pass out your first worksheet. There's actually a similar problem to this on there. So go ahead and put your name on this when I give it to you. So make sure you hold on to these worksheets. Remember, all of them are going to be due at the end of the week. So hang on to them. Make sure you fill them all out. These are in place of your notes, right? So just hang on. So like I said, the sample space is going to be all of the possible outcomes. So on this first side of the paper that I gave you, we are going to look at a few problems and list out the sample space. So that means we are going to list out all of the possibilities based on whatever the problem is. So on, here it is. So it's going to be a list of all possible combinations. Alright, so on the first one, we see that we we are talking about ice cream. So we have a couple different kinds of cones, and then we have a couple ice cream flavors to choose from. Alrighty, so we are going to list out every single combination of ice cream that you could order. Okay, so we have waffle cones, plain cones, sugar cones, and then we have chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream, and strawberry. So this first one I'm going to do it with you so then we can kind of model how this works. A lot of times when we do these kinds of problems, we're going to just use the first letter of the word because you don't want to have to write out the word strawberry a bunch of times, right? So we usually just use the first letter of the word to represent what we're talking about. So your first decision, right, is to choose between a waffle cone, a plain cone, or a sugar cone. Does that change what I can choose for my flavor of ice cream? No, right? If I get a waffle cone, I can still get strawberry ice cream, right? Or if I choose a sugar cone, I can still choose chocolate, right? So one of them doesn't affect what I'm choosing on the other one. So first of all, we have waffle, plain, and sugar. How many options do I have for each kind of cone? 3. Where does the 3 come from? Chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. So if I choose waffle, I can choose chocolate. So we're going to write that as WC. That means I chose a waffle cone with chocolate ice cream. Right? Then if I chose a waffle cone, I could still pick vanilla, right? Or I could still pick strawberry. So those tell me that waffle cone, chocolate, waffle cone, vanilla, waffle cone, strawberry. How many options for a plain cone? Same thing, right? So we're gonna have plain with chocolate, plain with vanilla, plain with strawberry. And the very last one, same thing. Sugar with chocolate, sugar with vanilla, sugar with strawberry. So how many total combinations do we have? 9. So if I have 3 flavors and 3 cones, there's 9 possible combinations, or we call those outcomes. So that is 9 outcomes. See if you can work together with the person next to you to do number 2. So you're choosing a math class. Your options are algebra or geometry, and then you're picking a foreign language, either French, Spanish, or Latin. So the main thing on this one, math is not an option, right? They're saying it's a math class, it's either algebra or geometry. So some people got this mixed up yesterday because they were picking math as one of your options. Math isn't an option. It has 2 types that we're picking. So work with the person next to you, see if you can list out all those combinations. Remember, just use the first letter to abbreviate your words. So you don't have to write out geometry. Can I get a thumbs up if you're good to go? Yes. Alrighty, so how many total outcomes did you get? 6, right? And again, if you did it the way that we talked about earlier, right, you have 2 options and 3 options. 2 times 3 is 6. So you could have guessed it before you listed them all out. So let's list them out just to make sure you got the right ones. So for algebra, how many different algebra combinations? 3, right? Algebra with French, algebra with Spanish, algebra with Latin. What are my other 3 that I'm missing? Geometry.
So F for French, and then F for Spanish, and then EL for Latin.
Perfect. So those are my 6 combinations. Any questions so far? Alright, so we're just listing out all the combinations. So the next one is back to the question we did on the warm-up. So we're making a sandwich. We have white, wheat, or rye, cheddar or Swiss, ham, turkey, or roast beef. So we know that, we talked about earlier, there should be 18 combinations altogether. So this kind of gets a little lengthy, so we have to make sure we don't forget any of the sandwiches. But luckily, we already know how many we want. So, okay. Let's do this one together because it's quite lengthy. Okay, so I have 3 different types of bread, right? So we have white, wheat, and rye. Alright, I know this might be a little confusing because there's 2 W's, so I'll say for white, I'll do W each. So white, wheat, and rye. Alrighty, so for each type of bread, there's actually 2 decisions we have to make, right? White with cheddar or white with Swiss, right? So we have WH for white, cheddar, but then we're also gonna have WH with S. We see that? So we actually have quite a few more combinations this time. Guys, if you choose white bread, do I have to pick cheddar? No, I still have the option to pick Swiss, right? Same thing if I chose wheat bread. I really have 2 options, right? I could choose wheat with cheddar or wheat with Swiss. And my last one, what are the last 2? Rye with cheddar or rye with Swiss. Alright, so we chose the cheeses, right? So each bread, we chose a different cheese, but now we have to choose the meat. So how many options for each one do I have? 3, right? Because each different bread and cheese can have turkey, ham, or roast beef. So each one of these I'm going to write 3 times, right? Because I'm just going to change the next letter, right? So let's write these in first. So I'm just listing out, because I know each of these options is going to have a 3. Okay. So white, cheddar, and what should be the last one? White, cheddar with, pick a meat, right? White, cheddar, and ham is one of them. White, cheddar, and what's the next meat? White, cheddar, and turkey. And then the last one, white, cheddar with roast beef. Alright, so for that bread and that cheese, there was 3 different meat options, right? So I can do the same thing for all the other ones, right? So that's how we come up with all 8. So if I get white with Swiss, I can get all 3 meats still, right? So white, Swiss, and ham, white, Swiss, and turkey, white, Swiss, and roast beef, right? And we're just gonna keep repeating this over and over and over. This one is wheat, cheddar, and ham, wheat, cheddar, and turkey, wheat, cheddar, and roast beef, right? Same thing, but if I switch out the cheese, right? So wheat, Swiss, and ham, wheat, Swiss, and turkey, and then roast beef. So take a second, finish the last 6, fill out the meats for the last 6. So we're listing out all the possible combinations. Looks like most of it's finished. So remember, each bread and each cheese, you have all the options for the bean still. So if you counted these up, we should have all 18 liquids on here. Alright. Questions? So I know it's a lot to write. You're listing out a lot of combinations. But remember, just abbreviate them. You don't want to write out the whole word. Alright, see if you can do number 4 for me on your own. So you're choosing between a white, black, or red car. And then once you pick the color, you can either get standard or automatic. And then once you pick that transmission, you can either pick 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder. So you're probably going to be using the letters W, B, and R, S, and A, and then 4 or 6. So go ahead, see if you can list out all those combinations. I believe you should get, let's see, 3 times 2 times 2. See if you can list all those out. So I know it's super easy for us just to write, oh, it's 12 outcomes, right? Because we know that trick of multiplying all the options together. But remember, these kinds of questions are asking me for the sample space. So they don't care how many there are, they care about all the possible options. So I know there is a quick way just to figure out how many options there are, but sample space is asking me to list them all out. What are all the possible combinations? So I know it's a bit lengthy, and we don't like writing that much, but that's what it's asking me to do, is listing out all those options. So we're listing out all the possible combinations. So yeah, you're on the right track. So you can pick a waffle cone, blue chocolate. So each different cone, you can pick a different ice cream, right? So you have waffle with chocolate. You should have waffle with vanilla, waffle with strawberry. Every possible combination. I know, it's so Alright, let's try to do this one together. So, I have 3 colors. What are they? White, red, and blue. Oh, is it black? Alright, so I have those. That's my first decision I'm making, right? Is how many, is what color you're choosing, right? So, if I choose white, let's just focus on white first. What is the second decision I'm making? It's either gonna be standard or standard or automatic. Those are the types of transmission. Yeah. So it's either going to be standard or it's going to be white and it's going to be automatic. Right? I automatically know that. Okay, but let's say I pick standard. Now I have a third decision I have to make. What are those decisions? 4 or 6. So I could have white standard with a 4 cylinder, but I could also have white standard with a 6. Are there any other options for white standard? No, so I'm done with that. Okay, but let's say I went the other way. I chose white, but then I went automatic. What decisions do I have? 4 or 6. So I'm going to have white, automatic, 4, and white, automatic, 6. Alright, and then you might have noticed a pattern. It's going to be the same for each color. Right? If I just swap out the color to red, I still have the option between standard and automatic 4 and 6. So this row should look pretty similar, except for I'm going to switch out the white. So I could have red, standard, 4, or red, standard, 6. Do you agree? Okay. Same thing with automatic. Red, automatic, 4, red, automatic, 6. Alrighty. Okay, help me with the last color. For black, what are my options? Black, you can say the letters. So B, S, 4, or B, S, and then the last couple, B, A, and B, A, 6. And like we expected, right, because 3 times 2 times 2 is 12, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 colors, that's 12. Question. Alrighty, 2 more like this, and then I'm going to show you an easier way to organize this information in just a second. So we have 2 examples down at the bottom. The first one is about rolling a number cube. What they mean by number cube is a dice, right? So think about what a dice looks like. What are my possible options when rolling a dice? When I roll it, 1 through 6, right? Each side, one has 1, the other side has a 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So my options when I roll that dice are 1 through 6. Right? Okay, when I roll, let's say I rolled the same dice again, do my options change? Or are they still 1 through 6? Still 1 through 6, right? Just because I rolled a 6 the first time doesn't mean I can't roll a 6 again the second time, right? So my options for the first roll are 1 through 6, and my options for my second roll are also 1 through 6. So this one has quite a few options in its sample space, so just make sure you're writing nice and small when you're listing them. So first things first, we're going to write out all of the possible combinations. And I know these are going to look a little confusing because they're going to look like I'm writing the number 12 or something, right? But remember, the first digit is going to be my first roll. The second digit is going to be my second roll. So first roll, you told me that I could roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Agree? Okay. Let's say I rolled a 1 the first time. So I roll my dice, I get a 1. I pick it back up and I roll it again. What are my options? 1 through 6. So I could roll a 1 and then a 1, right? That's a possibility. So I could roll a 1, then another 1. But I could also roll a 1, then a 2. I could also roll a 1, then a 3. Do you start seeing the pattern? I could roll a 1, then a 4, a 1, then a 5, and then a 1, then a 6. Good so far? Okay. But what if I had rolled a 2 the first time? I could roll a 2, then a 1. I could roll a 3, yes. a 2, then another 2, a 2, then a 3, a 2, then a, you're seeing it, 2, then a, and then 2, then a, okay, see if you can fill out the rest of them. Alright, because whatever I roll the first time, I still have all 6 options for the second time. So, it is quite a few. So, I'm going to fill them out also. This way you gotta write nice and small because there's quite a few. I'm gonna jump ahead to the ones we're on. We can come back to those ones later just so that you know. We're on. Quite done, just finish writing them all in. Okay, so for total outcomes, I could take the time and count all these, right? I could go row by row and count all the combinations. Or, remember, we can always multiply how many options we had for the first times the second. So it should be 36, right? You have 6 options the first time, 6 options the second time, we multiply. And if you remember from Tuesday, not yesterday, but the day before, when we do probability, remember, if it is the word and, right, so I'm the probability of this and this, we're multiplying. So 6 and 6 is 36. So there's 36 outcomes. Alright, also from Tuesday, we're finding the probability on this one. It wants us to do something else. We want to find the probability of doubles. So remember, when we do probability, the bottom number is always my what? Bottom number was always the total. So what is my total in this one? 36. And then remember, the number at the top is going to be the doubles part, right? So what do you think it means by doubles? What do I mean if I say I'm rolling doubles? Same numbers, the first roll and the second rolls, right? So it's going to be all the ones that the first and the second number are the same. So how many times does that happen? 6, right? 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3. And we can kind of circle those, right? These are all the doubles. So, how many doubles? We said that was 6 out of 36. Okay? And we could reduce that fraction or make it a decimal if we wanted to. We'll just leave it like that. Alright? Very last one like this before I give you the cheat on how to make this a little bit quicker. So on the second one down there, it says that you are tossing a penny. Okay, so remember, you have to think about what your options are. You're tossing a penny 2 times. So when I toss a penny, how many options do I have? 2, and they are heads or tails. When I toss it the second time, what are my options? Still heads or tails. So this one, you don't have quite as many options, right? So I'm thinking I should have a smaller sample space. So let's list out all those combinations. So let's say I picked heads first. I toss it heads, I roll it again, I could get tails. Okay? Or I could roll heads and then get heads again. Any other options for heads first? If I rolled heads or if I tossed heads, that's it, right? I'm either gonna get heads or tails second time. Alright, what other options do I have? Tails first, and I could get tails. Or I could do tails and I could get. So this time I only have 4 outcomes. Alright. And this time it wants the probability of 2 tails. Probability of 2 tails. 1 over the 1, because that only happens 1 time, right? Tails and tails. And why is it 4 at the bottom? Because there's 4 total. So 1 out of. Alrighty, questions. Alright, so it's quite a lengthy process on some of these, right? Like the sandwich one, listing out all those combinations. It's kind of hard to keep track of, did I remember all of this combinations with cheddar? Did I remember, right? Is there one I missed, right? So sometimes it can be a lot to organize. So on the other side, we're going to be working with what we call tree diagrams. So if you kind of think about, if you've seen a family tree, have you seen that before? People make a family tree, right? So you start with you, and then you branch off, and it's your parents, and then you branch off, and it's their parent, right? And you go further and further and further, right? So it kind of looks like that, and it just helps us organize that we didn't forget any of the options for each one. So on the very first one, you're given a spinner, right? And that spinner has a couple letters on it, right? Okay, so if I spun that spinner, what are my options? Where is it going to land? Either A, B, or C. Okay, if I spun that spinner again, what are my options? A, B, C, right? I don't lose any options just because I spin it a second time. So, we're going to make a tree diagram to list out all the combinations. Okay, so it's kind of like making your sample space, but in a little bit more organized of a way. So, at the top, I list off the options for the first one. So, my first spin, I can either spin A, B, or C. Okay, and then we focus on each one and what could happen the second time. So, focusing on if I spun A the first time. So, I get A. I spin it again. What are my options? A, B, or C. So, branching off from the A, I can either do A, I could get B, or I could get C. So when I go through and look at this, the way I read it is, okay, we spun A first, then B second. Or A first, then C second, right? So that's how we kind of look at it. Same thing for B. What if I chose B first? It could still be A, B, or C the second. And then same thing with C. You could pick A, B, or C. So this is just a different way to list out all those combinations. If I had done it the sample space way, right, I would have been listing BA, BB, BC, right, or CA, CB, CC. So it's just kind of a more organized way to list them all out so that I'm not forgetting any of them. And if we want to find the total number of outcomes, I just look at the bottom row of my tree diagram and count them up. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so pretty much the same thing we were doing, just a little bit more organized. So, what is the probability of getting at least one A? Okay. So, what number goes at the bottom always? 9. The total, which is how many outcomes? 9. So at the bottom, I'm going to have 9. And I want the probability of getting at least one A. So what does that mean? At least one? It could be the first time or the second time. Could it also be both? Yeah. Okay. So I want to look at all the combinations where I get A at least one time. So if I spun A the first time, how many times does that happen? Or how many combinations are there where I get at least one A from this tree right here? 3, right? All 3 of these have at least one A. I'm gonna kind of write a little bit. Okay, if I spun B first, how many times do I get at least one A? Only once, right? If I spun B first, it's got to be only that one time that I get A, right? Because this combination and this combination don't have an A in there. So it only happens that one time. Do we see that? Right? And then what if I had spun C first? It's only one time, right? Because it's CB that doesn't have an A, and CC doesn't have an A. So that's only one. So how many times does that happen? 5 out of 9. Alrighty. Last couple. Alright. So again, this time we're drawing the tree diagram, which is basically showing us the sample space just in a different way. So on this one, we are choosing between a hamburger or a hot dog, and then we get to choose between potato salad or macaroni salad. So see if you could draw me a tree diagram. Yes. See if you could draw that tree diagram. From both. Remember, the top of my tree is going to be the option, my first decision, right? What are my options when I'm making my first decision? And then I branch off based on my second decision. Okay, my first decision is what or what? I'm choosing between a hamburger or a hot dog. Right? So, I'll actually write out the words for you this time, but hamburger or hot dog. Okay, if I get a hamburger, then I have to make a second decision, right? What is my second decision? Choosing between potato salad or macaroni salad, right? Just because I pick hamburger doesn't mean I can only choose potato salad, right? If I choose hamburger, I still have both options for the second one. Alright, but let's say I chose hot dog. What other options do I have? Potato salad or macaroni. So, how many total outcomes do I have? 4, right? I could do hamburger and potato, hamburger and macaroni, hot dog and potato, or hot dog and macaroni. So that is 4. Oh. So if you got it a little bit different, just make sure you fix it. Alright, 2 more. I'll do one with you and then I'll have you do the last one on your own. So, choosing a vowel from the word computer and a consonant from the word book. Okay, so this time's a little different. We have to actually figure out what our options are on the first one. So, choosing a vowel from the word computer. So, what are my options? Vowels are A, E, I, O, U, but I only get to choose from that word. So what vowels do I have in that word? O, U, and E. So I was looking in that word, do I have A-E-I-O-U? Alrighty, so those are my vowels. Okay, so let's say I picked O, right? I don't know, maybe I put these letters in a bag or something, right? And I choose O. Then I get to choose a consonant from the word book. What are the possibilities? B and K. Remember, consonants are all of the letters other than my vowels. So I could either choose B or K. Alright, but let's go back. Maybe I had picked U instead. What are my options? B and K. Last one. I go back to the word computer. I pick E. So when I'm choosing from book, I could pick B or K. How many outcomes? 6. Alright, so to wrap it up, go ahead and finish the last one on your own. So you're choosing between 1, 2, or 3, and then the colors blue, red, or green. Alright, go ahead, finish that one up, and then we'll start our quiz.